Hey everyone, welcome. Good morning. This is Marilyn Shannon, and we're back from all the holidays and so happy to be here with you. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful New Year holiday season with your family, with your friends, with yourself, all the above. Anyway, we're glad you're here and we're going to get ready for our show. Just please remember always you can sign in to our chat anytime you like. Just put your name next to the video. It could be your pen name, nickname, whatever name you want to use, and you can comment and ask questions in there. And you can call us anytime during the show at 919-518-9773. And you can come in on Skype at Computers 2K Voice anytime you want because we send you an open invitation to join us anytime. That's what we're here for. So before we introduce my guest, I just want to say hi to Andan.
Hello, Marilyn.
How are you?
I'm fine. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. You doing all right?
Doing just fine. You?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Great. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you
Yeah,
back
it's
here.
been a little while, but we're here and raring to go. So, many of you know that I'm writing a series of books, and the series is called In Just One Afternoon, listening into the hearts of whatever the name is of the subject that I'm writing about. And one of my next books is going to be about addiction, opioid addiction, drug addiction. And I happened to meet my next guest who was absolutely delightful and educated me to the max about addiction. And I'm so delighted to have been able to invite her onto the show. And she is coming in from Costa Rica. And that is part of the show and part of the story. So let me welcome Niki. Hey, Niki.
Hello, darling. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. You're an incredible human being. I just want everybody to know that I know that.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're
it.
such a joy to know.
Thank you. Likewise. So tell everybody about Niki.
So, okay, wow, where to start? Just put me on the spot. So I am currently in Costa Rica. The reason I am here is because I have two major medical conditions. One is called fibromyalgia, the other is called myofascial pain syndrome. I also have several herniations in my spine, as well as a couple of compressed discs and some pinched nerves. So pain management for me has been a lifelong struggle. Because of my injuries, I have had a fracture in my spine before, and because of my medical conditions, opium, or not opium, but opiates have become kind of a part of my life, but that's not why I started being an addict, unfortunately. My addiction goes back way to when I was 13 years old, and my mom, who was also a pill addict at the time, she would give me half perks for things like cramps. And so by the time I was 14, I was a full-on addict. And so I've been fighting it all my life, and I had to find other ways to deal with the pain because, fibromyalgia at the best of times is a challenge. Add in the myofascial and all the other stuff. And pain has kind of been part of my life for a really, really long time. So I've had to learn other techniques like meditation, diet, exercise, mindset practices, and natural substances that actually help relieve the pain without having to worry about being addictive.
So
that's short version.
Yeah, well, I know it's a life version. It's a lifelong version.
Yeah, yeah.
So how bad did the addiction get?
Okay, when I think the worst I ever got was, and I picked them up and put them down, picked them up and put them down, picked them up. It's when I broke my spine in 2003, 2004. It was just after my parents had passed away, and I became really, really addicted to opiates because the doctor kept giving me Dilaudid as well as perks and all this other fun stuff. And I was all like, it was great. But I started crushing the pills because it wasn't strong enough, even though Dilaudid is a super, super strong medication. It wasn't strong enough for me. So I started crushing them and snorting them because it would get me out of pain faster. That's the worst I ever got. I bought them off of people instead of getting them through doctors. You're an addict when you're buying them from people instead of going to a doctor to get them, basically.
So your mother was started to give you pills when you were
Yeah.
13.
Yes.
And prior to that, though, you just saw her taking.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think the most shocking thing about my parents passing wasn't the fact that they passed a day and a half apart. It wasn't that they both passed of natural causes in two different cities and all that stuff. I think the most shocking day came 2 weeks later when my friend came to clean out my mom's medicine cabinet and took away two big white plastic bags, like the kitchen garbage bags, full from her bedroom and her medicine cabinet of medications. And most of those were opioids. And my friend took them away because she knew that I was getting into them. So she came and said, no more of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an experience. Do you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it was just surreal. It was I don't know how to describe that whole period in my life.
Are
But
you an
then
only child? Are you an only child?
I am technically. My mom only had me, but then my real father, he passed away when I was only 2.5 or 3 years old. So my mom remarried, and the man that she married was an absolutely wonderful man, and he had two sons, and they are 10 and 11 years older than me. When my parents got sick, though, the oldest of the two, he doesn't really want anything to do with my mom. So, and the youngest of the two he's got a phobia around hospitals and places like that. So he wasn't able to be really of any help. It was just me. He did help me with the funeral arrangements after the fact, but the actual, when they were sick and trying to care for them, that was just me.
That was you. So was your father also addicted?
My stepdad?
Yeah,
No, he wasn't. He was addicted to beer, though.
So he had an
he was,
addiction.
oh, absolutely. He was a full-on alcoholic. That's what killed them both: alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes. Mom and dad had quit smoking, but he was diabetic and he loved his beer. So first came dialysis, then came death. It really. And that's why I've fought so hard to get healthy, because I don't want to do that to my daughter.
Right. So
Right?
let's talk, and then we'll talk about your family and all of that. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, you are using opioids.
Yeah, if I could get my hands on them, absolutely. I really loved, I think it was Contact C at the time that had it, pseudoephedrine. Pseudoephedrine and opioids were my drugs of choice. I mean, if I could get my hands on opioids, great, but I was quite content to just pop cold pills all day because it kept me going fast. Everything was fast back then.
Do you think, like, I know that when I was, younger, I had terrible, menstrual pain. I mean, it was awful. Do you think, and this is a hard question to ask, but do you think at some point you weren't given an opportunity to handle pain? Is that is
Um,
that a question?
it's a fair question. It absolutely is. The reason that my mom would give me the half perks is because she would take me to the hospital and they would just give me stuff anyways, because I had what they thought was endometriosis. So they were giving me a shot if she took me to the hospital, and I don't even know what it was. It was probably, I don't even remember the other drugs names that they used to use, but they gave me a shot because the pain was, in their minds, they had done tests, and in their minds, the pain was valid.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
early on, it, it wasn't, if I fell down and hurt myself, I mean, that wasn't worthy of a perk as a kid. You know what I mean? It was just because she didn't want to take me to the hospital, basically. That's
Well,
what
and
it
we're
is.
hearing, tell everybody what we're hearing in the background, just so everybody knows it's not a screaming person.
It's a rooster. It's a Costa Rican rooster. And you might hear monkeys at some point. You'll certainly hear children, because I'm in a house in town. Internet up at my house, no bueno.
Uh-huh.
And so I've come to town. If the internet is a little choppy, I apologize to your viewers, but this is Costa Rica, and you get what you get.
And you're in
It is.
Costa Rica. Why? Tell everybody why you're there.
Because my body and the cold don't get along. We don't get along at all. As soon as I am home in the winter, it means I have to up my medications by double. And so in the summer, I can go without having to take pain pills, and I can go with a very low dose of Lyrica, just with diet and exercise. So I can live off of like a 25 milligram of Lyrica in the morning and 25 at night, and not need any kind of opioids or tramadol or anything like that for pain. But as soon as fall comes, I have to start upping my medications. By the time I left, and it was December 15th that we left Canada, my body was already at the point where I was taking 100 milligrams of Lyrica at night, and I was taking, I think it was 50 to 75 in the morning. Plus, I was having to take half perks again every few hours.
Every few hours.
Yeah.
So it's hard to, so when you are taking drugs for pain, it's hard to find that boundary between taking it for pain and being addicted.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think probably a large part of my saving grace is my mom's sacrifice. You know, I watched her suffer with her addiction, and I watched her suffer through a horrific death. I mean, when your body starts to break down because you abused it for years, it's not pleasant. You know, she basically drowned in her own fluid in her lungs. Her heart, her lungs, her kidneys, her livers, they all just systematic failure. Everything just gave up. And watching that and bearing witness to that, and having been a child in a house of an alcoholic, and both my parents were alcoholics, and my mom was a pill popper. Having been in that situation, growing up in that household, I don't know if it was fear or if it was love for my child or what, a combination of both. But I was just like, I'm not going out like that. I refuse. Like, I have to find a solution. And so I started looking, and it took, well, I'm still working on it.
I know you are. I know you are. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'm not as healthy as I want to be yet. But I am healthy enough to drive a moped down a mountain on a gravel road. So, you know, yay.
So you're making sacrifices to be healthy.
Oh, huge. Absolutely. Yes. In Canada, I had gotten so sick at one point, the last time my body crashed. I got so sick from sleep deprivation due to untreated pain that I had what they thought was early onset Alzheimer's. And so my husband and I had to face a very serious decision, and that was I needed to stop doing everything, and I needed to focus solely on the work of healing myself. So I couldn't work, I couldn't bring money into the household. We ended up downsizing everything because having a big house was too much for me to manage when I was sick. We downsized everything. We now live in Canada in the summer. We live in an RV. And the last 2 summers, it's an older RV. It's getting replaced this year. But the last 2 summers, we didn't have hot water because we're still trying to pay off our debts from when I was off work for 3 years. So, you know, yeah, we've made huge sacrifices for my health. Huge. And my husband has made huge sacrifices as well.
So how many? Go ahead. Finish what you were saying. I'm sorry.
So no, it's okay. So is my daughter.
How old is your daughter?
She's 21 now.
Oh, she's 21.
She's awesome.
So she's on her own.
Yeah, she's out in Alberta with her fiance, Paige.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to get to her in a minute, but I want to ask you, how many people that have pain, chronic pain or some pain, or use their pain as an excuse?
You know, that's a really tough psychological question. And I think one of the things that people don't realize, and this is one that came to me really early on in this process, is, and it's gonna trigger some people, so I apologize ahead of time for that. I'm sorry. When we're younger, especially my generation, I found that being allowed to rest for no reason was not an option. So like doing nothing, just being still and doing nothing and being with yourself was always an excuse for a parent to go, hey, you should be doing something, kind of thing. And so I know of a lot of people that I have personally worked with who have adapted this idea in a really deep subconscious level that they can't rest unless they're sick. They can't do nothing unless they're sick. And so there are some people who on a subconscious level will get sick in order for them to take a day off. And that sounds absolutely nuts, but psychologically speaking, it's ingrained into you from an early age. So yeah, there is, with regards to chronic pain, there's so many different reasons for it, right? Again, psychologically, a lot of chronic pain patients are pain patients because they are suffering PTSD. So their emotional damage, the emotional damage that's been done to them, usually early childhood or late childhood, has set off a fight or flight response. So it's like your body's in fight or flight full time because they're always in a heightened state of like awareness and expecting an attack. And their nervous system just kind of gets stuck there. So they're, everything's louder and brighter, and they're more sensitive, and they're sensitive to touch. They have their pain response goes wonky, and their sensitivity to temperature goes wonky. So like with me, I'm super sensitive to cold, but I know somebody with fibromyalgia who's super sensitive to hot. So it's one of those things where it's so personal, and it really depends on the individual. And that's, I think, why the medical community has such a hard time dealing with chronic pain patients, because doctors just simply don't have the time and the resources to go through a step-by-step evaluation of this person's inner beingness and what led them to be suffering the way they are. And if you can't get there, you can't help them get better.
So then are you saying then that because they can't diagnose it in that regard, they are more free to give the medication, the pills?
Well, because they don't know what to do, right? I mean, it's not like the doctors don't want to help, I don't think. It's just they feel at a loss. You only have X amount of time with a patient when they come into their office. Unfortunately, in Canada, that's how the medical system is set up. And you don't have the time to get into, this deep dive into their psyche. If a good doctor will catch it and will recommend psychological evaluation, they'll recommend counseling. Pain clinics, if you get lucky enough to get put in a pain clinic, that is part of the program. Counseling and psychological evaluations.
But the alternative stuff that you're doing to
Yes.
help you in your medical journey is not necessarily something that a regular doctor is going to prescribe.
Not
Right.
normally, no,
No.
not unless you have my doctor.
Right. Well, let me ask you something. So you left Canada,
Yes.
to be in the warmth because it feels better on your body, and you're less apt to have to indulge in so many medications.
Yes,
that
because
right?
I know. Yes, because I know that the effects of continual ingestion of those medications will have a long-term detrimental effect on my body. I have decided to make the sacrifices necessary to avoid taking them as much as
So
possible.
do you go into withdrawal every time you make a change like this?
I have mastered getting off of pills. So when I
What
got
do you
to,
do?
I wean, just like the doctors advise, you wean off. I wean off, and I do things like up my water intake, I up certain vitamins, and I rest a lot. And I try to stay out of high stress situations in the 2 to 3 days that I'm weaning off. So I'll go down, say I'm taking, just for example, say I'm taking 3 half perks a day. So then I'll go down to 2. And then 3 days later, I'll go down to 1 half perk a day. And then I'll go down to 2 Tylenol 1s.
And do you
instead of the
miss
half
it?
perk.
Do you miss it?
For the first couple days, yeah, I do. And then I feel better because my body, I feel cleaner and I don't feel dependent on something.
What?
And
Go ahead.
I use medical cannabis as well to help me with that because it takes the edge off the nervous system. But I don't just use medical cannabis. I don't smoke it. I actually make my own capsules with coconut oil and thyme, the herb, because thyme has a very positive effect in low doses on the central nervous system. So I do a combined slow cook with thyme and just the leaves of the cannabis plant, and then in coconut oil, and I make little capsules, and it works in lieu of the drugs, the opioids.
So do you look forward to, I mean, I guess it's a mix, it's mixed. You look forward to the weaning, but then on some level, are you also, kind of like not wanting to wean?
No, you know
No,
what? I'm
okay.
at the point now where I want to be off them. So if I can keep my body in a point of happy stasis, homeostasis, where it's content and everybody's good, then I don't need the medications. And that's really where I want to be. I want to be where I don't need them. Because if I'm in pain, because of my experiences with untreated pain and the effects that sleep deprivation has on the body, I'm one of those who advocates, if you are in pain, if there is something wrong, if you have to take the opioids on a short-term basis, then I advocate doing so, because you have to break the pain cycle. If you can't break the pain cycle, if your body can't rest, then it can't heal. So opioids have their place, and that's one of the things that we have to talk about in society, is that they were originally intended for short-term usage. And if we use them properly in that way and allow us to do the things that we need for our body to heal. So if you can break the pain cycle, if you can make it easier to get up out of bed, then that means you can go for a walk. That means that you can start to do small stretches. That means that you can start to do basic yoga exercises. That means that you'll have the energy and the strength to learn how to meditate. And once you've done those things, once you've made those changes in your life that you need to make for your body to be stronger, then you can wean off the medications. And that's the beautiful part about it. If they're used properly, they're not a bad thing.
Do you think that the medications prevent someone from meditating or being able to walk or doing those things? Is it not just camouflage the pain, but does it actually prevent you from healing?
No, it helps you to heal. That's what I'm saying.
But at some point,
So-
if you take it too long.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're not.
It's okay, everybody. That's the way it is. We're in Costa Rica.
I have no idea what that is.
That's
or
all
how it
right.
went there.
Listen,
Anyway,
one time, weren't we
we'll
under?
keep going.
We were one time. I swear, we were. I was interviewing someone in the dark. I mean, really in the dark. It was like they were in a cave. Another time, we were interviewing somebody on a boat. Remember? And
Yes.
and they were on the boat. You could hear the motor, and it was fascinating. So we've been everywhere. So it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I wiggled, and it said, "I'm sorry, Tyrone."
My point is, if you stay on the meds too long,
Yes.
you tend not to do the exercise that's going to help you feel better.
Absolutely.
Right?
So it's a very fine line, right? Because you want to use them in the short term. So when you first get on them, that's when you need to be motivated to get better, right? So That's why it's not enough to just give, and that's why I'm saying they're not being used properly. It's not enough to just give people the pills and go, here, go, be better. You have to provide them with the psychological support. You have to provide them with the counseling and the teaching that they need to learn how to do the things that they need to learn how to heal. Now, pain clinics do this, but access to pain clinics it's so hard to get into them, especially in Canada. I mean, there's a 2-year waiting list that I was told that I would have to wait to get into one of the best pain clinics, and it's located in Hamilton. So By that time, and I guess that's why people like me exist, because that's what I do. I work with chronic pain patients now, and I help them through those steps. And I work in connection with doctors, and I always advocate that, regardless of whether or not we're using Eastern medicine or, supplements, yogic practice, meditation. The the thing is that regardless of who your healing team is, a large part of your healing team has to be your medical doctor. So your Western medical doctor, and people need to learn that it can't be this or that. It needs to be this and that. The solution is everybody working together: counselors, dietitians, nutritionists, naturopaths, yoginis, all of those people working together to help this person get to where they need to be.
I interviewed this woman became a friend years ago who had bipolar, and she was on the medicine you needed to be on and all that kind of stuff. And she started to wean herself from being on the medicine. And she had a rough go because, if you're not on medicine, well, for this woman, she was cycling and doing things that, she didn't want to do. Her
Right.
family broke up, her marriage broke up, all of those things. So she weaned herself off of the medicine. And I'm not suggesting this to anybody, I'm just giving you an example. And she started to meditate. She started eating better and taking care of her physical, emotional, spiritual self to where that is what made the difference. And she is not on medication now. And she is back with her husband and her family.
That's awesome.
And she has found the way of being on the other side without the medicine. So, I know it can be, it's a sensitive subject
It
for
is.
many people who are on the medicine and are afraid not to go off. What do you like? What do you tell people?
I think it's a very fine line. Now, I have a bit of an irkedness when it comes to the health and wellness community where they are constantly bashing narcotics. I think that people need to be aware that there are some people who do need the narcotics, or they do need the antidepressants, or they do need whatever medication they've been prescribed. Western medicine has its place in our lives, and we need to respect that. What we do need to learn to do is to look at each case individually and work with these people individually. And it is a very slow process. You don't just get off some of these medications overnight. This can take years. And some people will never get off them because their bodies they can't. They need the medication. That's just a fact. It is like I said, it's a very personal journey for each person. And so to the people that are contemplating this, my advice is find and build yourself a healing team that includes your Western medical doctor. And if your Western medical doctor is not willing to work with a naturopath and a dietitian and does not recognize the value of meditation or supplementation, then you need to search for a new doctor. And that's just fact. Your health and wellness must come first in all things, because if you do not put yourself first, you cannot take care of anybody else. And that is a major life lesson that I had to learn, and it kicked me upside the head a couple times. So, self first, it's not selfish, it's imperative. And so put your health and make that a priority, and take the steps you need to take, and reach out to the people who are out there like myself who are willing to work with people. Because you might have to make some financial sacrifices. You might have to make some lifestyle changes. You might have to have some changes in your diet. But I'm telling you now that it's worth it. I'm not supposed to be able to do half the things I'm doing. I'm really not. My doctor is constantly in awe. So, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
And you've been on this health portion of your journey where you've been kicking the opioids to the curb for how long now?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years I've been battling this, where I recognized that I needed help, and I started searching for solutions.
So was it when you recognized you needed help, was that when you were smashing the pills, or was it something else?
Actually, oh wow, it's 2008. It's 2019 now, so it's been almost 15 years, I guess. Yeah, the year after my parents passed away, when I was sticking pills up my nose, and I wrote about some of that in my book too. That's the year that I started seeking alternative methods. One of the first things I did was seek out a doctor who was a pain specialist in the Ottawa Valley. She did experimental Botox injections, and that worked for a brief time. That actually got me all the way through to 2009, but it also cost $5,000. So there's that.
So this is to minimize the pain, so you can minimize your intake of opioids, or is it to minimize the opioids? What do you do first?
Minimize the pain. So you have to treat the pain. And then I'm stressing that because I have suffered the effects of sleep deprivation due to untreated pain. And I don't think people really recognize how dangerous sleep deprivation is. I don't think people really recognize how dangerous chronic pain is. I've contemplated suicide multiple times. I can't even count the amount of times that I've sat in my room and thought about taking a few of those extra pills and just not waking up, because it'd be easier. It sucks being in pain every day. Nobody wants to live like this. In my condition, it's not terminal, in that it's not, the disease itself won't kill me, but the pain might, because if I don't find a way to manage the pain, I'm either going to drink and pill myself to death, or I'm just going to probably die from the effects of the medications, or if I ever get as depressed as I was right before I got diagnosed with the sleep deprivation, I could potentially take my own life. And that's a real danger, and it happens frequently with chronic pain patients, and we do not take it seriously enough.
So do you see, 15 years of weaning yourself off of opioids and managing your pain.
Yeah.
And you do see yourself getting to a point where you will not be on opioids any longer.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that I'm struggling with now is still my monthly the monthly pain that comes, and my doctor has prescribed X amount of pills. I get 15 Percocets a month specifically for that. But here in Costa Rica, they have a different method of dealing with that. So I'm going to try that and give that a go. And it's not a narcotic.
And what is that?
Now, I don't know yet, because I
Okay.
haven't had a chance. Actually, it's just the women have told me. So I'm gonna learn about that, and hopefully, if I can find a solution to that. The typical things, hot water bottles and stuff. It just doesn't cut it. So it's one of those things where there's a baby crying. Don't know if you guys can hear that.
Yes, we do. That's all right. We'll bear with it. It's okay.
I'm in Costa Rica.
You're in Costa Rica. So when you started this journey 15 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, your daughter was 6, right?
Yeah.
No, she's 21 now?
Yes, she is.
So she was 6.
Yes, she is. She was 6.
So she was a big motivator for you. She was your motivator.
She was, she was on me constantly about the drinking, because I did have a passion for wine at one time. Smoking cigarettes. She was constantly on me about that. Hated that I smoked cigarettes. And so I managed to quit those. She just, I think, not so much just in her being, telling me that she wanted to be better, but she said it, a couple times, that she didn't want to lose me. Like, I had lost my parents. When she got to be, after my parents passed away, she kept telling me that she didn't want to go through that, and I didn't want her to go through that. So I had to find a solution. I didn't want to put her through what I had been through, and I still put her through a lot. Don't get me wrong. She's seen a lot, and she's turned into an absolutely astoundingly amazing young adult, and I'm blessed that she became the person that she is. But we had to struggle through a lot to get there, and she's been more encouraging than anything. She's never accused me of not being a good mother. She's never accused me of not being there.
How important is surrounding yourself with advocates?
Oh, wow, huge.
Like your immediate family. What do you say about that?
So here's the thing, and this is going to again trigger some people. Sometimes your immediate family isn't going to be the support system that you need, and that sucks, but that's a reality. So I say you just keep looking, and you keep searching. And if your friends and family don't understand what you're going through, if they're not willing to be the support system that you need, then you need to find a support system that works for you. Regardless. Sometimes we find a situation where the person's people that they expected to be a support system are in fact the people who have caused the PTSD. Some people get so locked up in their weird relationships that they don't realize that they're in an abusive situation. So again, it's so individual.
So Niki, tell everyone what an abusive relationship would look like when you are like chronic pain, addicted to meds. What does an abusive relationship look like?
A lot of the times, with regards to chronic pain patients, an abusive relationship would look like somebody who, for example, my ex-husband used to poke me. He would poke me and go, "Does that hurt? Does that hurt? Does that hurt?" And fibromyalgia it's a touch-sensitive condition. So if you're in a flare, if somebody touches you, then it flares. You get a pain response, unfortunately. So that's one of the things that I've seen. Another thing that you see often is that the person is just not believed. They're not being taken seriously. They're being told that they're lazy. They're being told that they're weak. They're being told that they're not strong enough, and that they're making excuses. And if that's the things that the people closest to you are telling you, and if that's how they're making you feel, then that's not going to help you heal.
Well, here's the thing about pain. Nobody can see it. And some people don't always believe what they can't see.
Yeah.
And so there's the catch-22 for someone in pain. And that's the problem with the person in pain too, because we tend to sometimes believe the hype or believe the stereotype or believe in the fact that we can't be in that much pain.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a dear friend said to me once, well, Marilyn, because I had juvenile arthritis, so she said to me, "Marilyn, you must be in chronic pain." And I never thought about it in that regard. I just never gave it any, time. I just hurt, but that was it. Until she said that, it was like, oh my God, my world just like caved in on me in that moment. So, for many of us, we don't know we're in the pain. So, right? So doing things to take care of yourself, finding out what those are, getting a team of healers together, as Niki is talking about, to help you so you're not in pain, and handling it that way. Not everybody is taking a pill, but even then, I mean, I don't even want to take a Tylenol if I don't have to. So do you have your book with you by any chance?
Oh my goodness,
no. No? Okay. So tell everybody about, before I do that, if you have any questions for Niki or anything about drug addiction, about chronic pain, healing, this is a great time to call 919-518-9773, or you can communicate on our chat. Just put your name in the, underneath the window and come in that way. And you can contact us on Skype. You can see Niki as visual, but if you contact us, you're going to be on voice. So that would be at computers, that's plural, then the number 2K voice, computers 2K voice. So tell everybody about your book and where they would find it.
So that's a crazy story, actually. In 2009. In 2009, I had gotten fed up with my life as it was. I knew that I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do, and I knew that I wasn't doing the things for me that I needed to do, and I wasn't interacting with the world in the way that I wanted to interact with the world. But I didn't really I had a religious background, but not one that I believed in. So that's a little weird, right? But I mean, I was raised in a Catholic church first, and then I was shifted over to a series of different Christian churches. So I had a Christian background, but I didn't have a very strong spiritual, communicative relationship with God, as it were. I didn't even really talk about who God was or what God was. I didn't think about it, and I found myself in a situation where I needed to have that conversation. So I laid down in bed one night and I said, I need a sign, I need direction, I need help. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never prayed, really. I talked to God. This is new. But I did that for a couple of weeks, and then one night I realized I wasn't offering anything. So I lay there and I said, whatever you want me to do, wherever you want me to go, I'll go. I need to know. And I fell asleep with this warm, comforting feeling. It started at my toes, it worked its way up. By the time it hit my chest, I fell asleep. I woke up in the morning and I knew I had to go to the Philippines and write a book called Truth. And the story starts there.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't know
So,
what the book
Niki, let
was
me
gonna
just
be
say
about.
before you go on, you're a very sweet person. You have
Oh.
such lovely energy, and you're gentle, and just you. I can tell you have just just very kind person. So I just want to tell you that. So,
I love humans.
oh,
I think humans are awesome.
yeah, I agree. Okay, so take us to truth.
So it ended up being entitled Truth, My Synchronistic Journey. And up until December 31st, it was available on Amazon, and it will again be available on Amazon, but we took it down briefly because we're switching publishers. It's the third edition, and basically it details the journey that I took to the Philippines. That was, for me, an absolutely life-changing adventure. It opened my eyes and my mind in so many different ways, on so many different levels. And so I documented the whole story, and I now believe fully and completely in the existence of a creative force. I believe fully and completely that creative force is in and around all of us and with us at all times, and can offer us guidance should we need it. My faith in that is unshakable. My faith in myself is close to unshakable. I'm getting there. My faith in humanity, unshakable, because of the things that I have seen and the things that I have witnessed and the things that I have learned through that journey. And I documented it all. I documented the 2 weeks leading up to me going to the Philippines. I documented my time in the Philippines. And then we republished the book years later with the knowledge that I had attained through several years of doing a radio show and speaking to guests like myself who were healers and spiritual authors and leaders and stuff, and just having that communication for 3 years, once a week, was in itself an education. And so we added some of that knowledge into the back of the book and we republished it.
So how important is having a spiritual connection to the weaning yourself off of opioids?
Well, just before we even mention that, you can't not have a spiritual connection. Okay, everything is connected to spirit, so you're always connected. What does need to happen is you need to acknowledge that connection. You need to start to communicate with the spirit within and with the spirit without. And it's that communication that's necessary, just like having a communicative relationship with your body, which is something else that I teach. Body communication is really important. Talking to your body, asking it what it needs, and then giving it what it's asking for. It's the same thing with communicating with spirit, with communicating with the world around you, and recognizing. I think a lot of people start to heal when they recognize that we're all going through the same shit. Excuse my language, but that's just how it is. I mean, we're all going through stuff. Full stop. None of us are perfect. None of us have this figured out. Seriously. Not even the top spiritual leaders in the world. We don't have it. Nobody has it figured out. And
I think based on some of the research that I'm doing, and understand when I write a book or I do things, I don't research based on being like a scientist, because I am not. I am far from a scientist. I'm not a geneticist. I'm not any of those ones. I am a humanist. I am not a scientist. So when I do research, it's by just talking to people and reaching out. And one of the themes that I've noticed, and I'm hearing it a little bit in what you're saying, aside from having chronic pain, is the feeling of, or being lonely, or feeling disconnected, feeling alone, as being a theme with people. And this is also, I'm not making a judgment, and I'm not saying everybody, but the people that I have interviewed dealing with drug addiction, that are surviving, working on surviving, addiction, have had a feeling, they can pinpoint it to having a feeling of feeling alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a huge part of it, as well as a feeling of inadequacy. When you are disconnected, then you don't feel worthy. So this loss of self-worth that goes along with addiction, and chronic pain is a big killer of self-worth. When people suddenly are no longer able to do the things that they were able to do a month ago, or a year ago, or even a week ago, they have to start canceling plans. People don't understand. Their self-worth goes completely out the window, right? And those two things go together. It requires you to have relationships with people who acknowledge your worth and your value. And that's why relationships are so important in the healing process, because you need people around you who are encouraging you to be the best possible you that you can be, right?
So are you saying also that a feeling of disconnect, loneliness, feeling alone, whatever, can be an impetus to be for pain, for people with chronic pain to use drugs?
Absolutely. Because if they're surrounded by people who support and love them, like the gentleman who's in the background right now, his name is Tyrone. He is an absolutely awesome human being who understands my nervous condition. And when I get upset or stressed, he has a very calming presence. And I'm able to be here and be just chill and be in a safe, secure environment. And I think that it's really important that people who have chronic pain conditions acknowledge that they need that in their lives. Without that calming, secure presence where you feel safe and where you're able to be who you are, even if you're having a bad day. And he's seen me at my worst. I last time I was here, I quit smoking while I was here, cold turkey. So he got me through that. And 3 days of me without opioids and without cigarettes and without alcohol was not a pretty sight. But he got me through it.
Just by being kind. Just by being kind.
Yeah, just by being kind and calm. He's very calm. He's very kind. And that's all I need, Right when I arrived today, I dumped the bike. My little moped that I rode down the mountain. I got all the way down the mountain, all the way to his house, and then it fell over. It fell over on my leg. And I was shaken. And he's like, "It's okay, baby. It's okay, baby girl. Just okay. We do it. Everybody jumps their bike and just relax. You made it here. You're safe." And just those things, because he knows that something like that can set me into a mini flare. And so it's best that I'm in an environment where I have people that can help me. Because like I said, I'm still learning too, right?
So let me ask you something, because, I made a statement before about your gentleness and your sweetness, and you are. Do you, and I'm wondering, because are you an introvert?
I'm not even sure, because I love people. I was in the restaurant business for like 20 years. I love people, and a lot of the work that I do is with people. But here's the thing. I'm really picky about my people. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So I love to meet new people. I love to get into in-depth conversations with them, and I love to learn who they are and learn their stories, and that's part of the
But
work
you
that I
rather
do.
be with a small group than a big group.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not a big
Okay.
group fan.
So I wonder, and again, this is just hypothetical, right? So I wonder if the sensitivity, because people who are creative, and I know you are, and this is
Yes.
not a judgment, this is just an observation. People
Mhm.
that are creative, I mean, everybody could find a reason, their own reason for, being susceptible to taking a drug. But I
Right.
feel like people who are creative, who are extremely sensitive, are
It's
extremely sensitive.
yeah. It's hard for us to turn our mind off.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
it becomes sometimes a method of escape from our own hamster wheel
You're right.
that's going
Right.
around your
Right. Because people that are
yeah.
creative see
Oh yeah.
lots of options.
Oh yeah.
That's
Oh
part
yeah.
of the creative process,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Brain never stops.
Never
Brain
stops. I mean, it's
never
different,
stops.
right? It's yeah. Well, if I can do it this way, but I can do it that way, or this wall can come down, or it can go up, or I can paint it red, I can paint it blue. What it would look like here, what, and I think part of the necessity to slow things down is one reason that it could be your type of energy could be susceptible for taking pills, but also being so sensitive already, sensitive to the environment, sensitive to so
Oh, and I
many
am.
things makes you more sensitive to pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is really funny because I mentioned earlier the Botox treatment.
Yeah.
So the lady who did the Botox, she put electrodes on my body to see how much electricity was going through me at the time, um, because she was trying to figure out where the pain was coming from and how that was happening because she couldn't pinpoint it. So she put the electrodes on, and she couldn't believe that I'd even walked in the office. So, while I am extremely sensitive to certain things, like I'm sensitive to chemicals, I use body lotions and soap that are made by a friend because I know that they're pure. I am sensitive to toxicity in my food, so I try to eat as clean as possible. I'm sensitive to alcohol, so I try to drink very, very like little. Occasionally, I'll have a glass of wine, but if I drink like hard alcohol, I pay for it for days. Um, I'm sensitive to cold. I am sensitive to noise. I'm sensitive to light, which is funny because I'm solar powered, so I need the sunshine.
Yeah, but
But
yeah,
bright
that's
lights
different
are my
than,
breathing.
yeah,
Yeah.
solar power.
Yet,
Yeah,
yet,
it's different.
yet, yet, according to the pain specialist that I saw in 2004, and she was the best at the time in the Ottawa Valley, my threshold for pain was through the roof. She said that she had never met anybody who had a pain tolerance like I did.
That you could
So
handle it or not handle it.
that I could handle it.
Could handle.
She said the normal human being with that much electricity like firing in their nerves going through them at a time shouldn't have been able to walk into her office, let alone drive the hour that I drove to see her.
So do you think that there's a level where you just get used to it? On some level
Yeah.
that, well, there's a
Yeah.
level where you get used to it, but then the other level is being abused because you're used to it. You it's almost like it's an imitation of being
Yeah.
used to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And isn't that horrible? I don't think anybody should
well,
ever have to get used to
it's
pain.
but we don't
I
know. But we don't know.
I know, but that's a conversation that needs to be had in our society too. I
Absolutely.
mean, you see people working. I worked in a grocery store. Actually, I wasn't in the grocery store working. I was working in the bank portion. But the staff that worked there, a lot of them were in pain daily with back problems or knee problems or this or that or that, and constantly I would hear, "Oh, it's just pain." People need to get a grip on that. They need to understand how dangerous pain is. We need to talk about that more. That's what I want people to start talking about. That's what I want people to acknowledge. It's not these people are weak that are saying, "Hey, I'm hurting too much to function." They're not weak. They just hit their limit. Pain can be deadly, and we need to acknowledge it. We need to,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
acknowledge that it matters. If you hurt every day, that's not normal, and it matters. And you shouldn't have to live that way. You just shouldn't.
You
It's
know,
not right.
it's very true. And everything that we're saying is so important for our ears to listen to and our heart to get, and for our emotions to understand that, when you're tired, go to sleep. You know, all of these things. There was the book, The Red Tent. Did you ever read it?
No, but I want to.
Okay, it was great. It was about women
That is it.
honoring their monthly periods and being in pain, and like it's part of the process, and to
Right.
honor it, not to kind of swish it away. Well, all of the things that we're talking about are very important, and the more we honor it, the less we're going to walk around feeling guilty about it, because what you resist persists,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So
Ab-
go ahead, say it, go ahead.
and that's no, that's an absolute truth, and I would love for a society to be able to acknowledge, like the Indigenous did. Um, Women get given a really hard time if they call in sick because they have their period.
Yeah,
That's why women are popping pills.
yeah,
Right? That's
yeah.
why I pop pills, because I can't afford to call in
No.
sick because I have my period.
Right,
Because I have another
right.
medical condition that maybe I have to call in sick for. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But no, if
Right.
a woman is suffering for 3 days, then she should be allowed her 3 days
Well,
to
it
go
hurts.
through the thing.
It hurts to have a period, and then
Yeah.
I know, and we're almost going to be out of time. But when my children had their wisdom teeth pulled, how many people out there that are listening to us now have children who's had their wisdom teeth pulled, and the doctor gives you a bottle, a vial of pills that they will not take all of them, no matter what. I mean, they'll need maybe one or two, but they will not need a bottle of 30 to get them through wisdom teeth,
That's right.
right? And yet I always took that bottle for my kids. And in the beginning, I'd give them one, and that was it, because I did not want my children addicted to Percocet, Percodan, whatever. But hold on one second. I just want to, before we get off, I want to, do you have my book? Okay. Here are my 2 books on Amazon. They're going to, In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Men, and In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Twins. Soon to have another brother and a sister up there, hopefully. One on millennials and one on opioid addiction is coming soon as well. Niki, we're almost out of time. Can you get, this has gone so well, and I'm so happy we were able to do this, and we'll have to talk more, because I know that these subjects have been taboo, and
Yes.
people don't talk about it. They hide and they don't acknowledge their pain, thinking, oh my goodness, but the more you acknowledge it, the less it is.
So
So
we need to talk about it.
we do. So
We need
any
to talk.
final word before we say goodbye?
Just remember, please, that your journey is unique. What works for me is not necessarily going to work for you. What works for your sister isn't necessarily going to work for you. But don't give up.
Don't give up.
I know that it can be horrendous struggle to find the solutions that you need, and it can take a really long time, but just please don't give up.
And then if
That's
somebody
my
wants to talk to you, how do they find you?
You can find me on Facebook. So I have 2 pages on Facebook. I have my fan page, but I prefer friends and fans. So, you can find me at Niki J. Norlock, for Niki Norlock. That's NIKINORLOCK. Or you can find my blog at phoenixrising.com. So that's FEENXRISING.com. And through my Facebook fan pages and my Instagram, when we do republish the book, you will know. And any stuff that I do on pain. And you can connect with me privately if you're looking for somebody to work with you on a personal one-to-one basis.
Perfect.
Because I do coaching as well.
Perfect. Well, you've been delightful. I'm so happy you came. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're such a joy to talk to.
Likewise, I love you too. It's wonderful how these connections get connected. So,
Aren't they awesome?
they're
It's
awesome. They're awesome.
Yes.
So
Love it.
everybody out there, Happy New Year. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Mwah! Love you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.